Good evening, everyone. Professor DeBras here, ready to get after chapters 2 and 3. I understand that most of you are on spring break this week, but I also understand for this class, obviously, it's an 8-week class, and you guys are working on your own type of schedule. So I want to make sure these lectures are up and running so you guys have them. Some of you may be out in warmer climates, and I hope that you are. But for those of you who are here and are still plugging away, I want to make sure that you have the lectures for chapters 2 and 3. There was a small glitch in our system, and there were no due dates on your discussions. That has been changed. The first discussion actually was supposed to be due this past Sunday. I've extended that to this Friday since there was no due date on there. All the assignments will have the due dates on there by the end of tonight. I also understand at least one of you has reached out to me and said we're having issues finding the book. I am working with our office as well as the bookstore to rectify that situation. So again, I hope to have that in their hands by tonight as well, and hopefully that will be we'll have a remedy before the end of the week. So so far so good with everything. Chapters 2 and 3, two of my favorite chapters, if you will. First off, our chapter 2 talks about developing your marketing plan. And again, that was what my background was coming out of college. I have a degree in marketing. I've done sports marketing. It's probably the one thing I truly, truly enjoy in the industry. So as we go through chapter 2, we're going to look at two different things: marketing and sales. And for many people, they don't quite understand what the difference is. And there is a drastic difference when we talk about pure marketing and pure sales. And although they are different, they do work hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. But there is a difference in actually the implementation of tactics and procedures when it comes to marketing and sales. So let's look at it. We talk about marketing. Marketing is strategic. It is more long term. It's the groundwork that we're going to use in our sales process. Marketing is a lot more analysis, a lot more profit planning, market mix, really kind of looking at the big picture, if you will. When you drill down to sales, now we're talking more desk or field work. We're talking more short term, focus on sales quotas, rooms that have to be moved today. What is our inventory for this week, not so much for this year. So again, the marketing kind of is the plan that's enacted by the sales team. So that's kind of where we're going to see our differences. And chapter 2 is fantastic as it goes through and explains all this. And it talks about the importance of marketing and how we apply those principles. So, and again, in terms of the marketing mix, is one thing the book is going to talk about. You've got product, place, promotion, and price. Product obviously is very easy. It's both the physical and the intangible aspects of what we do. Physically, obviously, we talk about overnight rooms, comfort of our beds, meeting space, our AV, that kind of stuff, food and beverage. But then you're also going to talk about the intangibles, and that's going to go to quality of service. That's going to go to ambiance of your hotel. So again, there's a lot of different things that can be wrapped up when we talk about our product. It's not always brick and mortar. A lot of times it goes beyond that. It goes to the people who are actually doing the services that these people are coming to expect. Talk about place, how accessible a hospitality product is to the market. Are you a downtown property? Are you more on the outskirts? Are you a suburban property? Are you attached to the convention center? Are you a boutique type area? Is it a specialty hotel tied to some kind of attraction in that area? What's your place? Talk about promotion, both persuasive and communication. How do we get the word out? What are we doing to promote the product? How are we explaining it to our potential clients? Then we talk about price. And obviously that's very, very simple. How much are we charging for overnight rooms? How much do you charge for your food and beverage? How much do you charge for your room rental? So again, the four P's, if you will, of the marketing mix. And again, all of these will need to be looked at as we market our product. And the marketing plan is going to incorporate all of that. So again, looking at that long term, how does each one fit in the plan, and how does each one then used or I say sold by the sales team, if you will. So the marketing manager, a lot of times it can be a director of sales, it can be a pure director of marketing, but they're going to direct and control all the factors that are going to go into the marketing mix. So they're responsible for developing the programs, policies, objectives, and the adaptation of what clients are we talking to. Because again, when we look at this, we're going to break down a hotel into markets. We kind of talked earlier about corporate, Smurf, association, more of your catering side where it's strictly food and beveraging. Well, our marketing plan gets tweaked a little bit depending upon who we're talking to and what it is that's important to them and how it needs to be presented. So as we go through this chapter, when you're putting together your marketing plan, typically a marketing plan is going to cover more than say just this year. And what the book talks about is more of a 3-year plan. And that can be done by a sales committee that could have individuals from each department of the hotel, most likely their directors, coming together and say, okay, what is again our long-term goal for the hotel? Where do we see ourselves? How do we want to position ourselves? A lot of your big picture items. And again, when you're putting that together, we say sales committee, I should say, bigger hotels can do that. Obviously, your smaller properties probably aren't. It's probably a director of sales and a general manager, and those could be one and the same actually. So again, it's going to depend upon the property you're at. It's going to depend upon what your resources are as far as how your marketing plan is going to get put together. So 4 steps in the marketing plan, and I'm going to go through the 4 real quickly. Conducting marketing research, number 1. Selection of target markets and positioning. Establishing objectives and action plans. And again, reviewing and monitoring the plan. So what does each one of these steps look like? Well, conducting marketing research consists of knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the properties and competition, as well as the trends in the marketplace. So basically, knowing who you're going up against, okay? So when we do a sales analysis or a marketing analysis of another property, or what we sometimes call competition analysis, for instance, the Crown Plaza is located right across the street from the Omni. Obviously, it's one of our main competitors. How do we conduct our research when it comes to that property and looking at what kind of threat, maybe the wrong word, but what do they entail that is going to make it more difficult for me to sell in my market? We're going to look at the property as far as the physical property. What does it have to offer? Overnight rooms, meeting space, restaurants, amenities. How is their service levels? From the interior to the exterior, how is the property presented? Again, you want to be objective. Okay, you're going to point out their strengths. You're not going to kind of gloss over that. You want to know what it is you're going against. At the same time, you're going to point out their weaknesses. Talk about reputation. Talk about quality of service. What's their staff like? Are they long term? Are they short term? Do you have more rookies? Do you have more veterans? Again, do we know what kind of feedback have we heard from our clients as far as the things they've heard about this particular property? And again, that's all going to go into that competition analysis. Now, once we've kind of done the analysis on the competition, and again, we'll do that for all the hotels in the downtown area. So when we do our competition analysis at the Crown, we'll do the Omni, we're going to do the JW, we're going to do the Marriott, the Westin, the Hyatt, the Hilton, the Alexander, the La Meridian. We'll have our different sales managers each probably take 2 or 3 hotels, and it's their responsibilities to really dig deep the same way you would if you were trying to dig into a client and find out all the information you could. It's the same way with our competition. And so we will sit down and say, okay, here's what they have to offer. Here's their strengths. They do this extremely well. They have a weakness here. Their location is just off the main strip, and so that kind of hurts them. They don't have a shuttle. They do have a shuttle. They have a manager's hour. They have free breakfast. All of this will get laid out as we give an analysis and a synopsis, if you will, of that property. Now, we also would do a competition analysis on ourselves. And this is huge in that you look at yourselves through the eyes of your competition or the eyes of a planner. And this can be very difficult because obviously you're looking at everything from the good things that you do to the warts that you have. And you have to be very serious and very upfront on where your weaknesses lie. Because if we know where they're at, I guarantee you my competition knows where they're at. And that's what they're using to sell against me. And so I need to make sure that if a client comes to me and says, hey, look, we've heard that you have a weakness here, here, and here, how am I going to address that? How am I going to address that it is a weakness, but yet we're doing something to correct it, or it's not a weakness, and here, let me show you why. Okay? So we're also going to do an analysis on the marketplace. Okay? So a lot of times this is kind of situational analysis. We're going to identify the factors that can affect our operations. Population growth. How's the city doing? Is the economy of the city strong? Do we have attractions that are bringing people in? In other words, how strong is our market that we're going to go into and try to get our piece of the pie? Now, we're very fortunate in Indianapolis because we have an incredible CVB. Visit Indy is our Convention and Visitors Bureau that brings in a huge amount of business to the Indianapolis. On top of that, you have entities like Sports Corp that are always trying to bring new entities in from the athletics world. Again, Big Ten championships, men's and women's basketball, Big Ten championships for football, NCAA Final Four, Super Bowls, USA swimming and diving, USA volleyball. All of those are typically a combination of Sports Corp with Visit Indy, and that's going to give us an analysis of our marketplace. You also talk about conventions. What associations want to come here? Um, what are the hot buttons for our marketplace? Most of you probably are aware of the whole RIFRA situation that took place last year right before the Final Four. How does that affect our marketplace? All of a sudden now, this bill is being passed that is being viewed um, as kind of being against the LGBT community. How is that going to affect us? I mean, obviously, we pull from everywhere and anybody. And I thought Visit Indy did a fantastic job, and that Indy services all. And that from the hospitality side, we will service everybody. We don't have a problem with whatever your sexual orientation is, and quite frankly, it's not our business, to be quite honest. We're here to service you as a group, and your meetings and your hospitality events and what have you. So again, that market analysis, we've got to be real clear on that. What are some threats out there? What are some benefits? The Indianapolis Motor Speedway obviously is a huge benefit. Lucas Oil Stadium. We have a great number. The Children's Museum, NCAA Hall of Champions. These kind of things help strengthen our market and draw people in, which then allow us to figure out, okay, how much of that pie can we then get? As we move on, so did we hit everything there? I'm sorry, I'm kind of talking to you guys and I'm talking to myself. So yeah, I think we got, so obviously, I'm sorry, next two steps, establishing objectives in your action plan. So once we've kind of reviewed and done our analysis of the marketplace and what our competition is, we got to put together an action plan. What are we going to do to get our piece of the pie? Right? What are we going to do to attack the market, and how are we going to position ourselves to show our clients that our hotel is better than the competition? And that plan, that action plan, is going to break down into a lot of different things. It's probably going to depend upon the property. So again, I'm going to talk about mine. We're a full service hotel, obviously a convention center hotel. We're going to break it down by market segments, number one. So association, SMERF, catering, corporation, athletics. We're going to look at each of those markets. What kind of clientele are we going after? What kind of customers are we going to target? We're not looking for, in my case, we're not usually looking for that low-end piece of business. We're looking for that middle to high-end piece of business. We want those professional business travelers. We want groups that are coming in that are willing to spend a little money to get a higher quality experience. So again, that's going to set up how we're going to do our rates. Will there be special promotions at certain times of the year? Again, go back and look at our market. We're in a cold weather city. We know December, January, February, and as late as March, we could have snow and -5-degree weather. How does that affect what our objectives are? How does that affect our pricing? Any kind of special promotions we're going to do? All of that gets together and puts in your action plans. And obviously the action plan is going to have action steps. Step A leads to step B, leads to step C, then hopefully we'll complete that action and bring success to the hotel. The last thing we're going to do is a periodic review and monitoring. And this is really, really important to make sure, and probably falls more into your general managers and director of sales to say, okay, here is our analysis, here is our marketing plan, here's our action plans. So we've drilled down. Now, as we go along, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, how's that plan working? Are we seeing the desired results that we wanted? Are we getting our piece of the pie from the market? Are we falling short? Have we succeeded greatly? And are there things we want to make sure we continue to take advantage of? So we got to monitor that, because we're going to tweak it as we go along. The market changes. Competition can change. New people can come into the market. New hotels can go up. Sales staff at a hotel can change. They can go from a bunch of rookies to all of a sudden a bunch of veterans who are bringing in different pieces of business. And now all of a sudden maybe that hotel is a little more competitive than it had been in the past. So you're constantly analyzing the situation to make sure that your plan does indeed work. So again, that's looking at chapter 2, really kind of laying out how your marketing plan is going to then obviously direct your sales staff and your sales efforts. So as we get into the sales office, we get into chapter 3, we're going to talk about just kind of briefly, and that's really what these quick YouTube videos, guys, are just a quick overview. You've got good chapter outlines. Obviously, the book is incredibly thorough. So again, use this as just a quick hit to make sure that you're picking up the key points. That's really all I'm going to go over for you guys. Most of the detail is in the outlines, as well as in what the book has to offer. So as we get into chapter 3, talking about organizing your convention sales offices. Again, guys, this is going to vary upon the size of the hotel. You're going to have those hotels that their sales office could be as many as 25 to 35 people. convention or headquarter hotels like your JW Marriott here in the Midwest, Indianapolis, their staff's going to be much larger than even my hotel. As a good size, full service property, their staff is probably every bit of twice, if not three times as mine. And then you take it a step further and go into places like Mandalay Bay and Las Vegas and in your New York hotels, and you might see even more staff. Again, you're dealing with more overnight rooms. You could have a bigger breakdown of your markets. So again, the size is going to vary depending upon the size of the hotel. All right, so what we're going to see, we're going to talk kind of about your basic positions. And so again, a hotel of my size, a hotel of the Marriott, the Hyatt, the Westin, and the JW, they're going to have all of these kind of positions. And typically, again, we talk about the sales office, and that sales office is not its own. It is its own entity, but it's not as if it works in a bubble. That sales office touches everybody from convention services to banquet and catering to revenue management to your frontline people. Again, it is a big circle, if you will, that one person's efforts affects everybody no matter where you're at in the hotel. Again, front desk greatly affects what I do. If I sell a group and the front desk can't take care of them, it comes back around again as far as renewals go. Housekeeping staff doesn't get hours if we don't sell groups of people in the hotel. We don't get renewals if the banquet staff doesn't provide the best food and the best service and the best experience. So again, all of this comes around and one touches the other. But again, I digress. We're going to go into the sales and marketing staff. So here are some of the key positions you're going to see basically in your convention center style hotels. You're going to have a director of sales most likely, and they could have a dual role. It could be a director of sales and marketing, in which case they're handling all the marketing plans, the market analysis. Again, talking about before how we put together that plan. They could just be a director of sales, and their responsibilities are to oversee the sales team. You could have a director of marketing and a director of sales, and obviously each one would separate those two roles. You're going to have a director of revenue management of some kind, whether that is at each individual hotel or, as in my case, our management property, which is General Hotels, has a revenue management department that actually oversees our hotel and about 11 or 12 other ones. And actually that is growing. It's one of the biggest things you're seeing a lot of these hotel service companies, and again, General Hotels is one of them. They sometimes will own properties and provide the service. Sometimes they'll just provide the service. Revenue management is one of the key elements now that's being added to a lot of these hotels that are owned by one entity, but the revenue management is actually done by a service company like General Hotels. So you're going to see more and more of that. Your convention sales managers is kind of what I do. Obviously, I'm more of the front line, selling to everything on the corporate side and the athletic side. So, and again, in our world, we talked about this. You have SMERF, you have associations, you have catering, you have corporate, you have, in my world, I have corporate and athletics. So again, and again, that can divvy up and break it down even smaller. You could have corporate that only deals with 50 rooms on peak, only deals with 100 rooms on peak, only deals with groups that are coming west of the Mississippi, only groups that are pharma. So you can break that down however you want, but a convention sales manager is essential to every single one of the sales staffs. You're going to have a convention services manager. Now, in my world, you're going to hear me say a lot of times, Crown Meetings directors. That's our convention services management team. They're the ones who are going to actually implement the meeting that I sell. So in my world, I work on the front end. So if you're my client, we're going to sit down. My proposal will look good. You liked all the prices. I'm going to put the contract together. We're going to make sure everything's in there that needs to be in there. I'm going to sign off on it, and then I'm going to hand it to the client or the convention services manager, and they're going to implement everything that's in that contract, from taking care of the VIPs to the rooming list to when your food and beverage is going to be presented, what you're going to have for dinner, what you're going to have for lunch, where your breaks are, what kind of rooms you're going to have set up, what kind of AV provider or AV products you're going to need, on down the line. They're kind of the nuts and bolts of how the meeting actually gets done. So, and I love those people greatly. You could have a tour and travel sales manager. This is probably somebody who's dealing more with charter businesses, more your tour groups. That's pretty specific. Not every hotel is going to have that. Director of advertising and public relations. Again, bigger hotels are going to definitely have this. They talk about sales managers. And again, convention sales managers and sales managers a lot of times get, those terms are intertwined, or I should say used in place of each other. It just depends upon how you define it. The book actually defines a convention sales manager as one who identifies and contacts sales leads, and the sales manager, I think, is more of the one who actually do the selling. A lot of times you'll see those terms intermixed. So, And anymore, at least in our size hotel and definitely smaller, we don't have the, I'll say, the privilege of having somebody go out and find our leads for us. We're doing that on our own. Um, your sales staff, definitely key to success. Face-to-face contact with the client requires excellent organizational written and verbal skills. These guys, again, are probably acting as, I would put sales staff and your clerical support staff kind of one and the same. They're the ones who are seeing the person. They might be the front line before they get to you as a sales manager. Either by phone, they're coming in the general line, they're going to talk to our administrative assistants, our executive administrative assistants, receptionists. Again, the names kind of vary, but they're clerical staff that's kind of get the information at first and forward it on to the right sales manager, if you will. So they are a key because they've got to dig deep a little bit and find out exactly what this person wants. Because the more information they can give to me, the quicker I can get on the phone and bam, we get right into it. So very, very important. And like I said, they are kind of your frontline staff. So the book also talks about some supplemental sales staff, and we're going to go over this very briefly. For larger hotel chains, you're going to have regional and national sales offices. These guys are wonderful. A lot of times you refer to them as GSOs, Global Sales Operations, and they're wonderful. And they're selling the brand. So in other words, you have somebody who sells IHG Properties, which is what Crown Plaza falls under, Intercontinental Hotel Groups. That's our family of hotels, and there's 7 or 8 of us in there. They sell all of them. So a lead might come out, and bigger corporations don't want to deal with 25 hotels in Indianapolis and 25 hotels in Columbus, Ohio, and 25 hotels in New York City and Atlanta. They say, give me the global salesperson who oversees the Midwest. Fantastic. Let's say that's Jill. Jill, I have this kind of meeting. I want this kind of hotel. I want you to send that RFP to every single one of the hotels in your portfolio that meet that. Bam. Jill sends it out to all the hotels. We all have it. We now can respond to the RFP. Jill can even bring it down a notch and say, okay, this is too high, this is too here, and then she can present back to the client, here's your 8 best options in these 3 cities where you want to be at, here you go. So that's nice because they bring us business that we probably can't get to because those decision makers and those planners don't want to deal with the individual hotel at ground level. They want to deal with it at 20,000 feet, sometimes I like to say. And you also have independent hotel representatives. I have not seen this a great deal. It's out there. I mean, you definitely have that. And again, a lot of times that could be what you call a regional sales manager. Someone who represents more than one property. You would see something like this. I'm sorry, let me back up. You do have this more when you have conglomerates of hotels. And I'll give you a perfect example is what they call the Marriott Complex right now. So it's the JW and the 3-pack that go with it. The 3-pack are 3 limited service properties that are all connected to the JW. And they do have sales managers that will sell the entire conglomerate. And what's nice about that from a sales side is you can service a lot of different clients and a lot of different needs. Because you're going to have those clients who say, you know what, I want it to be quick in and out. It's only overnight rooms. I'm entertaining at a ball game. We don't need meeting space, but I can't afford $189 a night. Bam, you go down to the limited service properties right across in Victory Field, and it's boom, 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 and it's done. That same client could come back in 3 months and say, you know what, this one's different. This is my sales staff. We have a product that we're going to get ready to introduce. There's 200 sales managers. They're going to be locked in for 3 days. They need a beautiful ballroom. They need food and beverage. We need nighttime activities because they're going to do best practices back and forth. What do you have for me? We can give you the JW. So again, the ability to sell kind of a multitude of hotels, for the hotels who have those resources, that's a fantastic thing to have. Now, sometimes that person will handle it from beginning to end. It could be they find it, and just like a GSO, they send it down to the hotel and say, okay, I found this business, and now I'm sending it to the sales manager at the JW or the sales manager at the Courtyard. And so, again, they would still get credit for it because they would get commission on actually finding the lead and then flipping to the sales manager. But again, they won't actually finish the entire process, if you will. So, so that just kind of gives you a brief overview of some of the elements in a sales office. Now, the book goes into great detail talking about how we manage the sales effort. And this is going to come more from your director of sales putting together what they call SOPs, your standard operating procedures. And this is going to describe everything from how we prospect to how we record things to what is the procedure for handing off a client from your sales side to your service side. how do we record our sales, what is the, and we're going to go through and talk about a function book, which is a little more outdated, but God love the author of your guys' book, and I had a long talk with him. We finally have a whole page or two about the advantages of automation, and again, that is what you guys are going to see. You're going to see Sales Pro, you're going to see Delphi. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But again, we're talking about managing the sales effort. That's what we're going to talk about, is how do we record our sales? How do we record activities? How do we keep track of all the efforts we're making so that there's one place we can go and see all of this? We're going to talk about sales meetings. Communication is key, guys, and no one likes to have meetings, and I'm one of them. But it's necessity. It's how do they call it? A necessary evil, if you will. You gotta sit down. You gotta know what's going on. There are things that DOS finds out about from the general manager, from corporate, from our brand that we're not privy to until he or she brings us together and tells us. It's hugely important. It's hugely important that I know what my other sales managers are doing so I don't duplicate their efforts. There's no reason to go out there and try to reinvent the wheel. If Patty in my association market comes up with a great promotion and a great way of presenting it to clients, I want to hear about it. I want to know about it. I want to tweak it to my market and see if I can't use it as well. If I come up with a great plan, or if I come up with a way for me to get in to see other companies, and I look down and I say, you know what? My express sales manager and my catering sales manager, they deal with the same clients I deal with, but for different reasons. We should all go together, and we can make this, we could maximize our efforts, because obviously we're going to bring 3 different elements of the hotel to the client, and we don't go to the same client 3 different times. We all go at once. It just makes it easier. So those sales meetings become huge. You're going to talk about revenue. You're going to talk about marketing efforts by the hotel. Again, where do we stand from a monthly standpoint? Where are we at year to date? How are we individually hitting our sales goals? So again, those sales meetings, again, as dreadful as they sometimes can be, are incredibly important. Assigning account responsibilities, and this is going to go back to how we break down our markets. And we talked about how you have associations, Smurf, but we already talked about how some things get unique. Because I had a background in athletics, they actually took the S out of Smurf sports and gave it to me. That's not the norm. But my boss and my boss before her evaluated our team and said it makes sense because JJ has this background. He's lived that world. He understands it better than most people. He knows how to get in. He knows who to talk to. Let's tap his strength. And although it's a little bit different to have someone do corporate and sports, in this case, it makes complete sense, and we're going to give it to JJ. So that will happen. We've come across different things and along those lines where, I deal with the Final Fours now. I deal with the Big Ten football championships. Well, because I was dealing with Final Fours, and I was dealing with first and second rounds, and I was dealing with swimming championships and lacrosse championships, finally we sat back and said, all of these come through the NCAA. You're beginning to have these, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different contacts. Why don't we just let you do everything with the NCAA? Even though that is technically an association and would fall to Patty in my office, the association has to deal with athletics. And again, I'm delved in so deep because of all the events they put on and all the athletic events that it just made sense to continue to dig in there and find out what else was there from an association standpoint. So now all of a sudden, again, we adjusted, again, because we evaluated our staff and it made sense. So assigning accounts a lot of times will work that way. You're going to have people come in from other entities. Our director of sales had 35 years in the industry. And so when she came in, she kept some of her accounts. Well, she was in the corporate market for those 35 years. So all of a sudden there were corporate accounts that I don't call on anymore because she has fantastic relations with them and it made sense to keep them there. Again, those accounts got shifted to her. So you'll see that the responsibilities shift and change depending upon what the strengths of each person are. And again, we've already touched on it, but it goes back to evaluating your sales staff. If someone has a specialized skill, they've spent time in the industry, it just makes complete sense to kind of put them back in that industry and let them use their strength in their contracts. Okay, so I've already hit on this. Sales records and filing systems. You're going to go through the book. They're going to talk to you about the paper side of it. A lot of that is done probably at the very, very smallest hotels, but more often than not, hotels have gone fully automated, and I strongly, strongly encourage you to read the 2 or 3 page on the automation of the sales office, if you will. Delphi, Sales Pro are 2 of the ones you're going to see the most of. Delphi, especially for the bigger properties. There are some properties actually who may have created their own system, but Sales Pro and Delphi seem to be the 2 majorities that you'll see throughout the hospitality industry. And basically what this system does, I'm gonna give you a very, very quick overview, but it helps you, or I'm sorry, it allows us to record all of our activities. So my accounts are all in Delphi. So the name, the address, all the different individuals I deal with. Every time I have an activity, I make a phone call to them. I send them an email. I send send a proposal on an RFP. All of that is listed in there. It is basically the Bible of the sales office. When we book things, all of our overnight rooms are in this system for 375 days a year. 365 days a year. Sorry, it's late, guys. All of our meeting space is listed in there. So every time I put in a meeting, it's going to hold the rooms and the overnight rooms and the meeting space accordingly. Now, it's in our world, it's color coded. If I just put a proposal out, everything's in red. I mean, there's no contract, there's no legs to it. It's just been sent. If it goes blue, that means a contract either was requested, or maybe I'm down to the last 2 or 3 hotels, and I want to make sure everybody knows, hey, I'm serious about this space. I think I'm going to need it. If you're looking at bidding over these dates, you better come talk to me first. If it's green, it means it went to contract. It's done. This client has it. If in a weird case scenario, if you need to move somebody, you got to come and talk to me, talk to the director of sales. But that space has been promised to somebody, and it shouldn't be moved. So that is Delphi in a very, very quick nutshell. Again, everything is laid out in there. Kind of our rule of thumb is if it didn't happen in Delphi, it didn't happen. So in my world right now, our prospecting efforts are tied to our commissions, meaning that the goals I have for prospecting, outbound phone calls, site tours, visiting clients at their office, entertaining, all of that, if I don't reach certain goals, even if I make my month from a revenue standpoint, I do not get paid my commission. So you guys can bet that I put everything, every single little thing in Delphi to make sure that my numbers reach out. So when I make my month, there's no hesitation on me getting my commission. So again, guys, that's kind of chapters 2 and 3 all put together. Again, I know a lot of you probably are on spring break. Hopefully you're checking in, just staying up on top of your assignments. Again, make sure you check the syllabus. We've got another discussion due at the end of the week. Got some assignments coming up. I'm going to have all the due dates in there, like I said, by tonight. But again, questions, concerns, comments, by all means, pick up the phone, shoot me an email. I think we have a class of 7, guys. So this has been nice to have more intimate discussions. And again, hopefully you guys are getting something out of this. But I love to hear the feedback. I want to know where where I am not giving you enough information, giving you too much, or giving you information that's redundant. So please, feedback. Guys, have a great night, great week. I look forward to talking to you next week.